Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of our local marketing and SEO Q&A session. Very happy this week that we are joined by Joe Danzer from Advanced Online Insights. And as always, my two co-patriots in crime, Ben Fisher and Jason Brown. Hey, guys, how you doing?
Happy Friday.
Good deal. Well, excited to dive into this session. We're going to be talking a lot about 360-degree virtual tours, which you have probably seen on a lot of Google My Business profiles and other places. We're also going to be talking a lot about photography and optimizing photos for local search and for other marketing purposes for local businesses. So it's going to be fun as we dive in on this. Before we do, a little bit of some housekeeping here. First of all, Joe is obviously our guest. You can reach him at joe@advancedonlineinsights.com. Joe is a Google trusted photographer and really one of the foremost experts in really photography and virtual tours for businesses. Of course, Ben, you reach him at steadydemand.com and at thesocialdude on Twitter. Jason, you can find him at reviewfraud.org and at Kaiser Holiday on Twitter. And then obviously I'm with Local Marketing Institute, so you can find me out there. Speaking of which, just a couple quick things. If you're not yet on our newsletter, please sign up for our newsletter. Go to localmarketinginstitute.com. Once a week, we send out invites to these sessions and other things. If you can't attend these sessions live, subscribe to our podcast on all major platforms. Go on out there. You can sign up on our website as well. And you can also find a link on our website to our Local Marketing Institute Connect Facebook group, of which all these gentlemen are part of that group as well. And tons of questions and answers going on out there all the time. So make sure you avail yourself of that as well. And I want to just tease next week's session real quick. Nava Hopkins is going to be joining us. She's with Justuno. And she's going to be talking a lot about pay-per-click advertising, both Facebook, Google, otherwise. Very good session. She knows her stuff when it comes to this. So hopefully you can join us next week. But this week's guest is Joe Danzer. Joe, why don't you introduce yourself and let's just start talking a little bit about kind of what you do and getting into the 360-degree virtual tours. And I'm not sure that everybody on our broadcast even knows what that is.
Sure. I've been with the Google My Business or Street View for Business virtual tour program for about 7 years now. I started off as just simply Joseph Danzer Photography, thinking that it was a really cool thing to be able to create virtual tours using the Street View technology, but to put them inside of businesses. And since the inception, those get attached to the Google My Business listing as we know it today. In the past few years, I realized that people really like their tours and that this wasn't just going to be a extra thing I did with photography. It was going to basically become my life. And especially in the last couple years, especially this last year, we've had so much interest in virtual tours to show the inside of businesses that we've even had to grow here at our company. And we've recently adopted the name Advanced Online Insights. And we've even upgraded our services from just Google virtual tours to virtual tours on Google. We also make custom hosted tours now where you can add a menu. We're even demoing some current technology that allows us to place video inside of the tours where you can click a person standing at the beginning and they'll start talking to you. And with the inventive technology, you can even now use Google Cardboard or a VR headset and take the tour and stand inside that room and see it that way. We've also recently started helping Google with Street View. We're one of the very first companies that have been added to the trusted list that can now also collect Google Street View, add it to Google Maps, and it goes on there just like it's Google Maps adding it. It's been a really exciting couple years because of that. And it's really allowed us to do some things that a lot of people never really thought about. Google captures Street View for free all the time, everywhere in the world. But they can only do that in public areas. So what we've been able to do, and I think why Google opened up the program for Street View, is there's areas like apartments or cemeteries or other areas that are private. So our company can now finally help out those apartments and other areas that in the past Google really couldn't go because it's honestly considered trespassing and leaving 360-degree pictures of yourself trespassing in areas probably isn't a good idea on the internet. So it's been really exciting to be able to help add those areas to the map as well. So once again, I'm Joe Danzer, and I do virtual tours and Street View.
So Joe, kind of trying to break this down a little bit. We talked about, first of all, photos, and photos are a big issue for businesses, both on their website, in social media, in their Google My Business listing, and for other purposes as well, right? There's the photos. And then we're talking about the kind of the internal 360-degree virtual tours, which if you're able to share one of your favorites and give an example of that, I think that'd be awesome. You're welcome to share your screen if you'd like to. Otherwise, if not, I've got your website up. We can pull one up, because I think it'd be great to show some people what a really good one.
If you'd like to go to the website and click on the virtual tour area and find an example there you like. I would do it on mine. Very honestly, I have a 4-foot wide screen, and sometimes when I share, it gets really weird.
No worries. Let me, so here's your site, and here's a bunch of virtual tours.
Sure, if you go to the top there, the very top of the site, and those are all Street View tours. So let's go to the top and click on virtual tours.
Okay.
There you go. And if you just scroll down a little bit, one of the first ones there, you can actually click right in there and start moving your mouse around.
Yeah, I'll even go full screen on it. So I can come in here.
That particular type of virtual tour, that's on Google, on the Google virtual listing. It's a company here in Cincinnati called Nada. And what's great is not only do they get the product where when someone finds their Google listing, they can take this amazing virtual tour when they're choosing someplace to eat. A lot of times they're making the purchasing decision right in Google. Before they even go to a website or anything. One of the benefits as well, right before you went full screen, is that not only when you get a Google virtual tour, does it reside on Google, but you can actually embed it on your own website. You can create direct links to it on the site. If you click and drag, it'll actually move around in there. And then if you scroll down to the very bottom of the screen, there's plenty more examples and some of the other things that we do. There's a couple of fun ones in there. If you click on the one to the far right, Budokan, New York, I just found out recently I had a client in here, and if you scroll down, you can start to see some of the imagery where I was.
These are the static photos. No, these are all 3D photos.
Yeah, those are all, if you click them, they take you right to that spot in the virtual tour as well, which is another neat aspect of a virtual tour. On Google, wherever you stop when you're in the virtual tour and then grab the link at the top, if you send that link to someone, it opens up in that exact spot.
So like if I were to take this link here and I just grab this whole link and open up an incognito window, and if I were to put this in, it actually takes me to that very same, not only spot, but even perspective.
Exactly. And if you're zoomed in or something, if you have a lot of products and you want to talk about a specific product, I think early on, maybe the second or third year when I was learning a little bit more about my craft and helping people, I always wanted to build more value out of the tour. Not only add it to Google where millions of people see them, but to always add more value by giving them ideas. So there's a whole group of tutorials on our website that show you how to link to specific areas. And I think one day I was sitting with a client and I said, hey, you know that as soon as this tour is done, you have a year-long Facebook campaign. And they're like, wait a minute, I want that. I don't really want the tour anymore. I just want the year-long Facebook campaign. And I'm like, well,
right.
The really nice thing you can do is you can go to any spot in your tour. You can grab that link at the top. You can take a screenshot, and then you can write a post that says, come see our beautiful bar at Budokan. And when they click the link and they have a nice, beautiful picture in Facebook, it takes them right to that spot in the tour. But then you could also make another one that talks about the private meeting rooms they have. And so you could sit down as soon as your tour is complete and have your staff pick their 10 favorite spots in the tour and write a quick sentence, grab that link, grab that picture, and you have a great social media campaign that is all using the same tour, but takes you to different spots in it. We find that once someone enters a tour, they travel around in it quite a bit. So it's a very interactive experience. We see them shared a lot more on social media than just a standard post. So that's one of the extra kind of fun things about the virtual tour product, and all kinds of cool ways that you can use them.
So when a business creates a virtual tour, obviously they can use it in their Google My Business site. They can also embed it on their own website. They could then use the imagery for social media campaigns or other things. I know that when we've talked before, you've also said that the really good photographers will also come in and they'll also give you a bunch of still images that you can utilize for purposes as well, right?
Yes, and one of the great things about that, and I think to really link into probably something you talk about a lot, is enhancing, optimizing, or just making sure that your Google business listing is doing everything it can for you today. And at the very beginning of the program, Google My Business didn't even exist, but Google Plus did, and that's where these went. And Google Plus Local eventually became Google My Business. But in today's times, one of the things that I think a lot of companies forget, or maybe they just don't even know, is that the imagery can be just as important as all the other things you fill in on a Google listing, mainly because Google scrapes every single image that's on your Google My Business listing instantly, and it finds in those images what it thinks the content is. So if you have a music store and you have guitar lessons, if you have a picture of someone playing a guitar, Google's seen that image attached to your Google listing. It knows one of the things in the image is a guitar, and it will add that keyword to your listing without you doing anything. And it's actually important because it seems that over the research we've done, things that you don't type in or things that you don't have the chance to specifically add actually do a lot more for you on your Google listing than things that you can completely control. If you ever want to take a look at it, and I know we've had this talk before, so I love doing the demos, you can go to Cloud Vision. You can simply type in Cloud Vision into Google, and you can actually see exactly what Google is finding in your images. You simply
you can drag an image right here if you guys want to. So go to this link. We'll put this in the chat. Jason, if you wouldn't mind putting that in the chat, it'd be awesome. Put that in the chat, and then you could just drag an image right on here, and it will tell you everything that Google knows about that particular image and what it's discerned about that particular image, right?
Exactly. And we've actually done some really neat tests. One of our clients is in the tire industry, and we recently took and added a close-up image of every tire in their store with the logo on it. And now when someone searches for Cooper tire or Michelin tire or a specific brand, there's a much better chance that they'll show up because Google knows for sure that a picture that was taken in their store of one of their products, and it's figured out that that's a Cooper tire because it sees the logo, it'll definitely put them in the search because Google's goal is to make sure that when you search for something that you get a result that is relevant. It's not usually about always winning and losing, it's relevance.
I get a question about that. So really quick, Joe. So have you done any tests in a vacuum where there's like no website link to a GMB and you've just done Street View photography to see if there's any kind of semantic relationships between the Vision AI reading your images and associating the GMB listing with that, like a product or a service?
Absolutely. And I didn't do it on purpose. The reason I say that is many of the clients that I have, a lot of times they're wanting a virtual tour. A lot of times they're even starting out with getting their Google listing to be great. And in that case, they've not done anything. The one thing we have to put up a virtual tour is a Google listing. So in that case, a lot of times I'm the first one to help them set that up. And the first thing I do is I add their virtual tour and I add all their images. And amazingly, they start to search nearly right away. And if you want to do your own test, something that's really kind of fun and something many people don't realize is if you are involved with the Google listings, you know that you can set a cover image. And many people get upset when they say, okay, well, I set my cover image to this beautiful image, but yet when someone searched me, when I came up in the 3-pack, there's a picture of my business over there on the right, and it's not the picture I chose. And they're upset about that. And sometimes they should be because maybe it's not the best picture. But really interesting, and probably about 1.5 years ago is when it very first started, and now it's deeply integrated, is if I search, for instance, again with the tire store example, if I search for tires, when the 3-pack comes up and it shows me 3 businesses that sell tires, look at that image real carefully. You'll notice that it's probably not the front of the store. It's probably actually a picture of a tire. So
right.
It not only will know those keywords exist, but it will use your search terms. And if it feels there's an image in your gallery that represents the exact search they're doing better, then it'll use that image along with the search instead of showing the cover image of the front of the store, for instance. One more tip there for talking Google My Business is we've done thousands, so I've been able to see it over the years. There's a few images that you absolutely want to have. The number one I would say is if Street View is past your business, a lot of times to make your Google listing really shine or to make sure that Google knows that you're real, it has a whole lot of checks it does. And one of those most important ones is, are you there? So having that pin in the correct location is important. But if you then have an image of the front of your business taken straight on with your sign and everything viewable, and it can see in Street View that same image, it will nearly instantly know that you exist and that that's the right one. It's why it's very important in the imagery to use local imagery, to use not stock imagery ever on the gallery, at least. Posts are fine, gallery never, because it can confuse it. It sees that same stock imagery other places. Using just the same image on every single one of your businesses, if you have multi-location, can actually be a negative thing. It's best to use images of every single location. With a lot of our clients, it can feel painful the first time they hear it when they're like, hey, we have 120 locations. They look nearly identical. Please take one tour and add it to all of them. Number one, Google won't allow us to do that. they need it to be the exact representation because, of course, many businesses might not clean as well or have the same aesthetics. And if you go to Google and you see something and then you go there and it's not the same thing, you kind of feel like it's not true. And one of the things Google really seems to do is make sure that whatever is there is the truth when you show up. So that's why they want those hours and everything to be right, because people will stop using their search engine if all that information isn't relevant and correct.
Yeah, I know, like when we do, sorry, Eric, I was going to just say that whenever we do like a reinstatement, sometimes we have to get signage updated, right? Or there is no updated signage because the Street View car hasn't come since 2019. That's very common. So I love the fact that, of course, we recommend it all the time. It's like go to the Street View directory, the trusted photographer directory, hire somebody to come and do, what I call a Street View refresh. And what do you guys officially call that?
Well, we would go and do the front images and things. Getting it connected to Google, just very honestly, is just up to Google. It's an algorithm. There is no magic person who presses a button and says, this now becomes the Street View image.
Oh, I thought you had
a new option now, and that's that we can actually drive the vehicle past.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, that's our newest product. And I would honestly say that for the cost of what it costs us to get our vehicle there and to drive, our minimum cost starts at $1,100. Or we'll say $10.99 just to keep it friendly. But and then
that's actually not that bad to have a good first impression.
Isn't that much. Now, what's really great about that is it doesn't just help that one spot. It helps everything. Google uses its own algorithm to actually build the maps from Street View today. There's nearly no way to update a new road or a new subdivision or a new map. I'd say most of the jobs that we've got currently are things like shooting an apartment complex because it updates all the address indexing. So today, things we don't really think about when it comes to Google or Google Maps is, hey, I want to get some DoorDash or Uber or anything like that. Well, if you live in a place where there's no Street View and there's not good enough data on the map, you don't have all of those services because they can't see where to pick you up or they don't have an address to go to. Everything goes to the main lobby. Same thing, we've got one in West Virginia that called me yesterday that said, we need you out here to shoot 2 subdivisions that's existed for 3 years, but is yet not on Google. They've called, they've done everything they can for Google Maps to try to get it updated. But Google uses aerial imagery or Street View. And if we drive Street View of a brand new road subdivision, usually 2 or 3 days later, the roads are in, all the addresses are there, they exist on the map, and now you can actually send direction requests or go to those locations.
I got another direct question for you here, Joe. Sorry, Eric. And that is, do you do this all over the country or really?
Yeah, we decided that if we were going to go big, we were going to go big. And we did it in minis. So just one of the fun things, if you go to our site, we've been collecting Mini Coopers. We figured if we're going to be doing Street View, we might as well drive a vehicle that makes people smile. So, and they're really easy to put the camera on since they're small. Good gas mileage, things like that. But yes, we've recently, I've learned a whole lot about logistics and working. Luckily, I've got a good network of photographers over the last 7 years that I have met and worked with and kind of collected, and we kind of share our knowledge and things. And many of them want to take this next step along with us. So we've been hiring quite a bit, and we've got a pretty good fleet now that we can get just about anywhere in the country. The 48 states currently, I haven't gotten any jobs yet in Hawaii or Alaska, but if anyone is out there, we'd be happy to put a Mini on a boat and get it out to Alaska.
Hey,
Hawaii for sure. Maybe not Alaska so much, but yeah, it's been really fun. And we've also extended our reach with our virtual tours to the entire country. I mean, I had the opportunity, I really focused on quality at the beginning and making sure every client got every ounce of value out of what we were doing. Like I would take very specific pictures in the stills and put them on their Google listing, knowing that it was going to help them without them knowing why I was doing it. Like a close up of a specific product they sell a lot of, so that now they get found for it. And really what caused our growth was 3 or 4 major companies that I had shot over the past 7 years, every one of their locations across the country, all of a sudden said, "Hey, we're ready for our new tours." I said, "Okay, let me get it on my schedule." And then they said, "Well, we want it all in April." I said, "Well, that's 130 locations all over the country." It took me 7 years to get that done, that we were doing it kind of sporadically as we added new stores. Now we've got to go quick. So we've really ramped up and got a good group of photographers, and are really enjoying meeting people in other cities and states.
So first of all, this is absolutely fascinating. I always love talking about these things here. I want to kind of just recap a few key things I think that we've kind of gone over and make sure that we're clear for everybody who's watching. So we've got everybody from, marketing experts to, businesses who are trying to figure all this stuff out. So I want to make sure, first of all, to clarify for folks, let me share my screen real quick here, that when we're talking street view, right? Street view, and I'll go down to downtown Fort Collins here. Street view is what you see when you're outside, right? This is street view. And so like I'm looking at this particular street, I could come down here and go actually to this area over here, and I could see the various businesses here in downtown Fort Collins.
And you can see those little dots on the map if you want to give them a pro tip there. And that's where Google really knows. Like if you swing back around there, you'll see those pins on the front of a business.
Yeah.
This is stuff that's coming in the future. So you can actually see that Google has recognized that business so well that it takes its Google business listing and 3D places it in Street View. And the future of that is augmented reality directions on your phone for walking directions. So you can actually live see Google Maps on your phone. And on your phone, you'll see those dots pop up. You can click them and you'll see the stars and all that stuff. And you can learn about businesses in Street View on your phone while you're standing out in front of it.
And by the way, if no one's ever been to Fort Collins and hasn't been to Equinox Brewing, it's awesome. So I want to make sure they're clear, though. This is Street View, and Street View is external. And Joe, your team, and there are others out there, but I know you guys do this really well. You can go to places that haven't had updated Street Views or new divisions or private areas that want to have this external Street View, and you can shoot it. And then you guys have the ability, because you have the relationship with Google, to actually supplement Google's existing Street View library, correct?
Absolutely. Yep. We can go in and place it there, and it's been a really fun journey. And I always joked and said, like, I'll know I made it one day when they let me finally do Street View. If you look at some of my old presentations, which I don't really recommend, hopefully they've gotten better since then, but I think the very first ones we did, like I said, here's my dream, Eric, I'm going to have my Vespa and I'm going to put a Street View camera on the back. And
there you go.
And then last year we announced maybe we're going to put it on minis, and now we've done all those things.
So then what I wanted to do, guys, I want to clarify and differentiate this between a 360-degree virtual tour, which is internal. I mean, it doesn't have to be. You can do courtyards and things like that, but usually they're internal to a building. So like he mentioned, I'm going to hopefully not mispronounce it, it's Budokan.
That's correct.
And you can see the photos here. And first of all, a lot of these photos probably look familiar, Joe, because these are probably from the photo shoot that you guys did for them, right?
Some of them will be, yeah.
Yeah. But as we scroll down here, if you come over here, you'll see the Street View in 360. Here's the 360-degree tours that they created, right? And so now people can actually look inside the building and see what this actually looks like. This looks like a really cool place, by the way.
Yeah, I didn't finish that story, but yeah, I was saying that I was showing somebody that, and she's like, "Oh, that's where Carrie had her wedding reception." And I'm like, "Who's Carrie and what wedding reception?" And she said, "Oh, that's from the Sex and the City movie. That's where they filmed that." And I was like, "Yeah, I didn't know that. I just thought it was a cool looking room when I took the pictures." This is one of our clients' star restaurants. And I always focused on quality for the client, and because I want to make beautiful photos, but it has led to some wonderful things like this, where a client who does care about quality and not just having a tour, but wanting it to look beautiful, has reached out and found me. And I've gotten to go to places like New York and others where they'll have us shoot all their things because they want it to look a little better than just taking the pictures. I mean, and we don't charge any more than anybody else. We just always felt that if we focused on quality, there's no way we can't get the best clients that way.
And that's what I wanted to get into here, is saying, okay, so let's talk about these 360 tours. First of all, I'm going to go over the why. So obviously the imagery is beautiful. It's fun. I could use it on my website to help entice people. I could use it on my GMB listing. I can take the stills, create a social campaign. But the questions are going to inevitably come up. Does adding a 360-degree tour help me rank higher in a Google search? And number two, does it help with engagement? Does it help with people who find my listing, follow up, and actually do business with me? Because there's the two things, right? There's the ranking and these engagements. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on that, and Ben, Jason, yours as well.
Sure. I mean, mine, of course, I wouldn't say no, would I? I mean, but the things we know, at least the things we've seen and are able to document, are number one is the more boxes you check in your Google My Business listing, the better off you are. And I usually use it as the level of scale. If you're doing everything and your competitors are doing everything, then it starts to get down to the smaller things like, do you have more reviews? Are your reviews better? Are your pictures better? So on and so forth. And in many cases, one of those checkboxes is, does it have a virtual tour, yes or no? So just simply having one, whether it's good or not or whatever, can influence just that it's there or not, which is an extra box that's checked. Number two is that it does use the same AI through this imagery and learns a lot more about the business and is able to then build many more search terms. Also, with the imagery that we take, that's just standard still images, you can find that it builds those as well. The other thing we've seen just through some of our market research is that when someone goes to a Google listing, because they're so good in a way, like basically, if you're looking for something like, how do I get somewhere? It's right there in front of you. They've done such a good job of making that easy that people don't spend very long time on Google listings. But we did a lot of research and found out that if you have imagery, and when I say imagery, I say at least 10 photos, 10 relevant photos, that will fill up your gallery to where at least it'll fill the screen and it'll give you some relevant imagery to use. We found that people who had imagery, of course, people spent anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds on those listings. And then we found that when someone had a virtual tour, their increase went up by drastic. I mean, it was anywhere from like 2 to 5 minutes because they had something to look at and go through and spend time on. And of all the metrics that we get to see, one of the ones I wish I could see is how long people do spend on those listings very specifically, and how many people go through those and how many things they click. We're able to see it through just doing market research and having groups build that out for us. And even Google has come back and given us some of those reports. But of all the things they give us in the insights, that's one that you don't get to see as easily.
Excellent. I got one more question, Joe. I mean, I love this topic, by the way, especially when you start dealing with semantics. But let's talk a little bit about the future.
Sure.
So I would say it's not much of a stretch. Well, actually, let me ask you this. Does this exist today, or do you have knowledge of it coming in the future that you can talk about? And that is for the, you were talking about how you can do videos right inside of the tour. Well, what about product placement, maybe taking a product, having it rotate in 3D, being able to kind of not tactilely, but visually see it. And then also, what about being able to buy it directly from the 360 tour?
So 100% you can already do that. You just can't do it on Google. So one of the things that we recently did was we added that exact product into our group. And I've always wanted to, but it had to be good and it had to work on every device. And technology takes a while to catch up. And I was only one person, so it was kind of easy for me just to do Google tours. Even once I said I'm going to do Street View, it got hard because I was like, okay, I can't drive 2 cars at once and shoot tours. So, but in our growth, we've built an entire team now that manages what we call custom virtual tours. You can get a tour built and not put it on Google. Some people want a private tour and a private experience that they can even sell. I never thought that was going to be a product I would sell, but clients came to me and said, hey, I want a special thing for my museum where someone who buys a ticket this year and because of COVID can't come very often can have a special experience that they go to a private website and see. And we even film different parts of the attractions to where when you click them, they start to animate and move. So basically you can add a full menu. We've got tours where people can click on a product and it opens up a window. It shows variations of the product and you can click buy it now right there in the virtual tour. They've become very popular. I'm finally glad that we're able to offer this service, and I'm finally happy about how cool of the things we can do. My favorite is some of the video stuff where we've got a camera coming in on the 10th that we haven't got to play with yet. I plan on buying it, but since it's over $20,000, I figured I'd do the responsible thing and at least test it for a day or two before we just pulled the trigger. But it allows us to do full motion video and fun things. So keep an eye out on the website. We've got a really fun virtual tour of our newest office that we just built, where you can click a door and someone will come hopefully running out and say something to you and then run back in the door and shut it. And you're still just in the imagery, and really fun little things like that I've always wanted to do. But yes, there's so many things you can do. I don't believe Google is going to make it possible anytime soon, because they really want to make sure that the playing field is level when it comes to Google My Business. And it wouldn't be fair to really build some really heavy things that cost a lot of money to be able to implement. I mean, probably shouldn't say it out loud since it's my business, but I mean, anybody can make a virtual tour and put it on their Google business listing. I get a lot of calls when someone tries and buys a really cheap little 360 camera for a couple $100 and takes the pictures and tries to make it look nice, and it doesn't always turn out so well. There is a lot of specialized technical things that makes making a virtual tour look great very difficult, and we really specialize in that. But I don't think they're going to add really crazy things like putting in their own 3D objects and stuff into Google really soon, but you do never know. I mean, I was surprised when I saw the pins start popping up in Street View, and who's not going to say that Google doesn't just do it for you, where all of a sudden, if you have a 360 view of an aisle and it knows all the products you have and your website has that product page built out, especially in Google's version, that all of a sudden little pins don't start popping up and you can click right there and buy. I mean, yeah, I've seen a lot of little demos and stuff, but they've not given us any green lights on being able to do anything more than, we can't add even extra features at all. We have to, at least the way it reads is that it has to be the imagery as is. It's not supposed to be edited other than cleaning up color and light. You're not supposed to do any cloning or photoshopping, and it's supposed to be a true representation. And we can't add in menus or anything. They want it just to be a clicking, seamless thing.
So I think there's a couple things I want to throw out here. First of all, Joe, I know you said that anybody could do a 360-degree tour or something like that with that, but I do want to point out though that there is a big difference in quality, and you can see it. You can see it with the lighting, you can see it with the setup, you can see it with that. So we had a lot of people asking if you're available to work, and obviously you and your team are available to work throughout really the world, right?
Yeah, we've done a few overseas and things. I had a couple special ones I've gotten to do here and there, but yeah, and I mean, and honestly, I mean, our virtual tour starts out, at least locally, they start out as low as $349 for the first 5 panoramic images. And then from there, based on how many more images we have to take to build out a larger tour, it increases the price from there. And we build out quotes every single day. We do that because even though we've grown, I want to make sure that I can help even the smallest, like mom and pop business, just because that's where I came from originally too. And I'm from a small town, and I didn't want to lose, like, we know if we run our numbers, yeah, I can make a lot more if we're doing nothing but $1,000 tours every day. But
right,
what you get out of that is not only the tour, but many times if you just want imagery, like pictures, 10 pictures of your business, a professional photographer doesn't walk in your door for less than $1,000 sometimes. I mean, it's becoming easier with lots better cameras and things. You can do a lot of the imagery on your own, but at the end of the day, we've tried to make our prices and quality and things to where it doesn't even hardly make financial sense to even try to make your own, unless you're going to use that 360 camera for a whole bunch more things and you really enjoy it and things. Just getting the equipment, taking all the time that it takes to learn what you need to do. I mean, I always say, like, I could do my own taxes, but that's a lot to read, and I don't really feel like doing it. I'd rather throw some money at somebody else and let them do it.
So as a baseline, then let's say $350 you said would get you 5 360-degree panoramics, like 5 nodes, basically you can walk around.
When you click that little arrow, you have to be able to. And with Google, one thing we always like to reiterate is that they do have to connect. A lot of people goes, oh, I have 5 rooms in my business and it's a dentist office. Yeah, but there's also hallways and they turn and twist. And so, I mean, it's always usually $90 or $49 per image. So one outside the door of the exam room, one inside, then one inside the exam room if you want to show an exam room or something. And so they do have to. I think
it's a good baseline for most businesses out there. Hey, for $350, this is what you should be looking for if you're going to use a 360 photographer. That's a good baseline. You're going to get 5 nodes, 360 degree. You're going to get the still photography. So if you're finding people who are charging way more than that, or aren't giving you that kind of quality, think about that. Joe, I also wanted to share real quickly the site for this is the site where you can find trusted photographers out there. Like you can narrow it down to whatever city. Look like Allentown, Pennsylvania. There's 2 of them there.
Yeah. And so, I just recommend anytime you find those, they don't update the list all that often. So definitely check their website and look at their work. I mean, that's all there is to it. I mean, it's really that simple. I mean, you can usually tell, I mean, I'm a little more critical since it's my business, but you can tell a good one from a bad one. You just want to look for sharp imagery, make sure that the color looks as if it represents it well. We do see a lot of rush jobs where people will just, everything is really yellow and it's not staged as well as it could be, and things like that. But most of the prices in the industry do stay pretty similar. And there's even some larger agencies. I mean, I never want to say like an agency is good or bad because we're becoming one ourselves now. I mean, we do use all of our own employees. That was something I decided early on, just because anytime there's a forward-facing person that represents us, we want to make sure they're our employee. A lot of the agencies use 1099s, but there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, they call me and every once in a while I'll help them if I can. I don't always have the time, but there's good and bad there. But definitely just, at least with this kind of content, you should be able to just simply look at what they've done and base your decision on that. And the pricing stays usually pretty tame.
Yeah, the one thing I want to say is we just heard last night that Google just purged the system back in November. So they got rid of they auto-enrolled a lot of people into the Trusted Photographer program, and they ended up removing a bunch of people who didn't want to be in there. And to Joe's point too, like when you are hiring these people, they're going to offer like very nuanced different types of services. So they might do staff photos. They might, do, professional photos that you can use for your marketing or for your bios or, any of that stuff. So, there's going to be, they're all going to have like different nuances to the stuff that they offer besides just the 360 tours.
Exactly, Jason. Yeah, we used to offer a few other things, but we've stopped doing as many headshots unless usually I'm on the shoot because I didn't want to train my people to do headshots, or
right.
It's not really there's a lot of great people out there that do great headshots, so we didn't really need to compete in that area. But yeah, you always just want to check the quality, and I don't see there being an issue that much. I don't know what all the competition out there is always doing, but I do always say, like, at least with us, we build a quote and we stick to the quote. There are a few companies that have asked me to go out and shoot, and sometimes they do like well, it's $100, and then when you get there is when you start really telling them how much they really need. And I've shied away from those models just because I'm not the guy who likes to take my car in to get an oil change and find out later it's going to be much more than it was. I want to know the price before I go in, and we try to really do that in our business, and that's why we use the model where we charge exactly per shot. You will find in the industry that a lot of them will do small, medium, and large, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just know that the reason we didn't was because we price it exactly as what it takes to do it, and we know what our model is, and we know it's the minimum it can be and still make some profit. In that case, though, the reason we don't as well is because someone needs a large, but they want that medium price. So someone will ruin their own tour by going, well, we only get 10 shots for the medium, so we really needed to get those extra 2 meeting rooms to really be able to show people what they're going to be renting. But to get into the medium price range, let's drop those 2. And they always usually regret it. We come back out and shoot it later. So we chose our model that way.
So we have a ton of questions coming in, both via chat and via the Q&A functionality. You guys want to tackle a few questions here?
Oh,
I think
Let's do it.
great. And I'd like to keep it right now on photos and virtual tours for now, because we got the advantage of having Joe with us. So let's just tackle some of these here. I did want to bring up a couple of questions here. How does someone add a tour to their GMB listing? Is it easy for someone to do, or do they have to hire a pro to do it for them? That's the first question that came up.
Sure. The easiest thing you can do on your own is that you can take a 360 image and add it to your Google listing just as an image. It doesn't have to connect. When we say tour, what that implies is that those images connect. You may even find that your business has 360 images on it that you didn't add. When we add the virtual tours, I don't have to have special access to their listing or anything. And we actually, on the SEO side of it, find that it's better to add it from the outside. Google seems to like content that is added from both the owner, but also to see that there's also customer added images. To create a tour, there is an app that you can use that Google creates. It's called Street View. It's something you can download on your phone. All the work has to be done on it. I'll be honest, I tried it once when they released it and haven't touched it, and that was 5 years ago. So it was basic. There wasn't a lot of speed that could be done, and it was very complicated for just trying to do on your phone. There's 2 or 3 great third-party apps out there. We use a company called GoThrough, but there are a couple others that we are also friends with and things as well that help you make these tours and add them to your listings.
Got it. Great question came up about Google Cloud Vision and Google being able to read images. Mm-hmm. Does Google only read and interpret images you upload to your Google My Business listing? Does it look at your website? Does it also look at things like posts that you do to your Google My Business listing? What images does Google Cloud Vision index, if you would?
I'm not 1,000% on all websites. I know we have done enough research to prove that before we had certain images on a website and we checked our keywords were being searched for the month before and then just did an A/B test, and then the month after we saw new keywords showing up that were being found for without any other implementation on the website. I don't know exactly all the little iterations about the websites themselves. When it comes to Google Business listings, the number one thing I can tell you is the gallery should include images that are pictures, photographs. Google ranks them in order of most relevant to least relevant. So you can simply open your listing, go to the top and scroll to the bottom. The ones it doesn't like the most is the ones that aren't as relevant. We find that if you add text to an image, overlaid text, instantly it goes to the bottom. Pictures that aren't pictures, pictures that are stock imagery, things that aren't relative or specific to that location usually show up near the bottom. And just for fun, I mean, every once in a while, like if I'm watching a football game and I always pick my phone up during a commercial, if I want to search for something and just look around, I'll look at a local bar. And man, there's some crazy images at the bottom of those because it'll be people's feet, or I guess it's called drunk dialing, but that's drunk taking pictures on your cell phone by accident. but yeah, it kind of ranks them there in the orders that it does. So it really does matter the content and things on those. So as far as the posts, stock imagery is okay. I've 100% confirmed that with the group at Google. I don't know if they run that through Cloud Vision or not, but I know that it's not even close to as relevant and doesn't seem to impact it nearly as much. But I will say, through our research and through a software we use to look at how many posts are clicked and things like that, I have a rule that I tell all the agencies I work with and things: if you're not putting a picture with a post, then you're not posting, because they get clicked so little compared to a post that has a picture on it. We even have started doing animated GIFs and small little animated videos because they bring your eye down to them much easier, and it's very effective on the post.
Interesting. I like the animated GIF. It's kind of a little ninja.
Yeah, we used to just have like a static, get this offer, $100. Now it goes, get this offer, $100, and it animates in, and we saw like a 30% increase in the clicks on that. I think.
But those are actually videos though, right?
Yep. Little videos for the post picture. They were super simple to make with nearly free programs on clouds or website software.
So ready for our favorite question? I'll throw this out here because we do get this one every couple of weeks. I think because there's a lot of misinformation out there. We've had a couple of people asking, do I need to take the picture actually at the location with the metadata or exif data? When I upload it, is it better to do that when I upload it to my Google My Business profile or on my website? Would love, Joe, to get your take on that. But Jason, Ben, I know this is a common question that we get as well.
Sure. I mean, from our research, absolutely, you want to, because it's just more data that Google has. It's not the end of the world if you don't, but when you are taking, it's more important to take pictures at your location or just of your location that are unique to that specific location even. Because Google knows instantly if it's one picture that's added to 2 locations, it's the same picture. I mean, it knows for sure every time. We do go back and forth on the geotagging of images that were taken either professionally and didn't have that metadata or things like that. It can't hurt. If you're doing everything, then yeah, you should do it. But if you're doing as many things as you can with your budget, Google uses a lot of other things to figure out if the image was taken there, if it's similar to the other images that are there and things as well. So it's not as drastic as it used to be. It used to be 3 years ago, our software had features in it that really helped that quite a bit. And it's still good to do it, but it's not the first thing I do anymore. It's about what's the largest thing in that picture? What is the content? If you really do go into that cloud vision, you're going to see how they break that down. It starts with like the summary of the picture. What is the object or the point of the picture? Then it'll start breaking down and saying, what are things in the picture? And then it even gets into like smaller nuances, like what is the feeling of the picture or things like that. So it's more about content than it is about all the little tags in the background. And keywording them, we don't see any value in that at all anymore. I mean, even on Google's documentation, they basically said, even the name, when I run stuff through Cloud Vision and things, I always name it like dog or something, even though it's not a dog, just because it's not as relevant anymore.
Ben, Jason, anything else you want to add to that? I mean, I know we talk about this every couple of weeks at least.
Sure. Just really quickly. I have a feeling that they do actually, by the way, just to go back one thing you said, I think they do use Google Cloud Vision for posts, photos, and probably videos too, but I would think definitely for photos because we see them get rejected all the time. Oh
yeah. Yeah, definitely there. Yes.
You know,
and stuff that shouldn't be lots of times.
Exactly. I mean, it's like, I remember this one company out of the community, they had a mold removal. They were a mold removal company and they showed like the top of the ceiling. Well, it looked kind of like an armpit. And maybe other body parts. And when you run it through Cloud Vision, immediately it's like, oh, okay, it got flagged for nudity, basically.
Exactly. They'd always say safe search. And you're like, where is the safe search? I mean, I'll say it is not like dogs. Like I have so many pet care places and chains that do pet care and things. And I've had to put them in a different account because every time they post, like I get tons of little things in my email saying, so-and-so's post got rejected or suspended or this or that. I'm like, it's a picture of a dog smiling at the screen. Like, where is the weird safe search thing here? I don't.
We definitely need to talk to we need to talk to the nanny bot about that one. Dogs have to be okay. Come on. No, but seriously, the only thing I wanted to say is that, so I don't know if I agree. I agree with you actually in the sense that the exif data is not really that important. I mean, from what we understand, Google strips that data anyway, actually, and replaces it with its own data when you do an upload. So especially if you're at the location itself.
Yeah, I'll throw out one more thought with us here. So, I mean, bottom line, Joe, I think you hit the nail on the head here. Take authentic photos of your location, use those on your website, upload them to your Google My Business profile, because okay, when you take, and if hopefully everybody out here knows this, if you don't know it, when you take a photo either on your phone or with a good DSLR, whatever it may happen to be, there are meta tags, meta information associated with that image, and oftentimes it's it's the latitude and longitude and other things about what camera it was taken on. All that other data is that's the tags we're talking about here. And Ben and Joe and Jason have preached this nonstop, and they're absolutely right. Google strips out all that data when you upload it to your GMB listing. However, here's my thought on that. If you're taking authentic photos and you're uploading it to Google My Business and you're putting it on your website, it doesn't hurt if that metadata is there. But you going in and someone going in and trying to meta tag all these different images and to try to influence their ranking in Google, that's what doesn't work. And Google does strip this data, but I'm not fool enough to think that Google gets rid of any data. I mean, it may bring in that data and read it, but then it's going to strip it. It's not going to impact your ranking though. So just take authentic photos. Stop trying to game the system. Just take authentic photos at your location and use them on your website and in your listings, and you've solved your problem.
And you run a risk of getting suspended. So somebody did that. They spent a bunch of time and energy. They deleted all their photos. They did the exif data and the keyword tagging and all that stuff. They uploaded all their photos, and then their listing got suspended for the abuse. So there is you run that risk when you're trying to play with Google, that that they're getting sophisticated, more sophisticated now, and cracking down on abuse. So
yeah, new photos matter. So people sometimes there's even programs that I don't recommend that will press a button and it does exactly that. It just refreshes them and it makes it think that you're adding new photos, but Google is very smart there. The number one thing I get the question of, and I think this is very helpful for everyone, is people ask me every day, of course, well, then what picture should I put on my listing? And the good news is there is a really easy answer because Google's telling you, because they put them in order of relevance. So as long as you're not in such a niche business that no one else does what you do, you go search for what you do and you look at what Google finds. That'll tell you who's winning and losing those searches. And then you look at their Google My Business gallery and see what from top to bottom people are using the most or what is in there. And that tells you what's relevant. And there's a few that are always there. And it's even Google's documentation. If you read the local guides documentation, it's a picture of the front of the business, a picture just a step inside, product images, pictures of the team, pictures that show kind of the mood or whatever. Even on a restaurant, you would think that, of course, in just the general gallery, it's going to be food, 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 food. And there is, but in those first 3 images every time, if there's a picture of the outside of the business, it's there. If there's a picture just inside the business, it's there. Then food, and then sometimes people doing things and stuff. They kind of, if you just look at enough of the data, luckily you don't have to be Google and have their algorithm. You can open 10 listings, scroll 3 times down that gallery in each one. And after looking at 10 different ones, you'll start to have a good idea of like, okay, if I'm in this industry, this is what Google seems to like to see. Or even the other metric I use is make sure yours is better than the other people that show up next to you. Because it's not about being the best of everything. It's just being the best of your group. So if 3 choices come up and you're in that 3-pack, would you choose you? Do you have good enough reviews? Do you have enough of them? And when someone clicks your pictures, do you like yours better than everyone else's? Because that's what people make purchasing decisions on every day.
But you're also saying that Google tells you the pictures they're looking for. It's right there, even in the Google My Business dashboard, the pictures they're looking for.
Yep. And if you want to know a little bit more, I mean, one of my favorite things to share is go to the Google Local Guides help section and read. It's Google Local Guides is more of not like a program that's forcing people to do anything. It's just ideas and trends. And I mean, near Christmas, they're always going to do it where they say, hey, for fun for Christmas, Google Local Guides, go out and take a picture of the aisle of your favorite store and then get a little bit closer and take another one and then take a picture of one product. And then you kind of back that out doing what I do. And you're like, oh, wait, they just said like, now we now know a bunch of more products that business sells. And even maybe one that's closer up, a real good close up of knowing exactly what that product is. And now those pictures added to that listing by a local guide, it knows they sell those things. And now when you're searching for that thing, Google can tell you not only can you buy it online here, but the 3-pack will show up and here's a place you can buy it. You'll see those things right there in there.
Yep. I'm keeping an eye on the time. We got time for a couple more questions here. I know this is a subject I know we could go on and on. There's still a lot more questions we haven't gotten to, but I want to ask a couple more quick questions. This is a very interesting one. This is by DW. I have a home-based business for chimney repair. Google shows the front of my 1958 built home. What effect does this have on my credibility and what should I do about it?
It could be showing the home just because they may have their PIN at their house if that's where they do their business out of, and it could be the street view image. If you have a business that's a service business, you're not really supposed to have a PIN physically on your location unless you have a sign. And really Google just wants it if someone sees hours and directions, that if they click directions, you're there when they show up. I mean, it's a nuance though that some businesses people get it. Like the plumber is probably not going to be at the place that the PIN is if he has a PIN. Hopefully they know to set up a service business. They don't always search as well, but they can. But what I do find is if you're in the trades, it's good to have yourself take pictures of the things that you do. So pictures of chimneys will help a guy who works on chimneys. Number 2, and this is pro level tip, that it takes more effort, but 1 or 2 of these is worth more than so many like begging for reviews just through a blast email. And that's when you get done, ask the client while you're standing there to take a picture of your work, as long as they're happy with it. So now they took a picture of your work, and when they write a review for you on your Google listing, they can attach the image. And now someone else did it. Google even learns for service businesses, if you're labeled that way, who should find you. Because when customers take pictures of the things you do for them as a plumber, electrician, chimneys, it sees where the reviews come from. And so then you'll search better in those areas because it knows you're traveling to those areas. How do I get found for like a certain city? I want to be in the really rich part of Cincinnati. It's called like Indian Hill. They're like, I want all my customers to come from Indian Hill. So what do I do? Like put posts and say Indian Hill and do all this stuff? I'm like, no, have customers in Indian Hill. Because when people search from you from that area, Google knows where they're searching from. And if more people are searching from you from that area, Google associates you that way. And you can't see that anywhere. But if you're just doing the thing, it matters. I mean, if that's where your customers are, you'll get more customers there.
And you have a question?
Yeah, actually, two things. Don't know if you know this, Joe, but recently Darren Shaw had brought up the idea of doing like a video review, right? Having somebody do a video review and uploading that when they do a review. We actually tested this, and it doesn't work on desktop, but it does actually work on mobile.
Sure.
So if you take a little video,
A lot of things work on mobile that don't on desktop anymore, which is wild.
Exactly.
But like I mean, shoot, they just got to where you can do questions and answers on desktop. You can finally now do messaging on desktop of,
well, yeah.
I mean, if you have 100 and some locations, trying to answer that on your phone is impossible.
Yep, exactly. The question I have for you is this: so we see a lot of times when somebody goes from having a storefront to a service area business, that issue that the gentleman I was talking about comes up where it still shows the image of the home, even though it's been converted to a service area based business. So my question is very straight up, and that is that, so can that actually be removed by somebody like you?
Well, not by me. Well, I would help the best I could to get them where they could. And if they add me to their listing, I try to do as many as I still can. I've got a few more phone calls than I used to get nowadays to do some free work here and there, but I always want to do what I can to help. I used to give a lot of presentations, so my name's out there, and as long as I'm on the listing, I can make the request if they're not comfortable or know how to reach out to Google. Many times as the owner, as long as the image shows up in your gallery in your Google listing, you can flag it for removal. And they did re-add back in the ability to comment. So if you just literally say, hey, this is my house, please get off of here, they're the ones telling you not to do that. So they should want to do it for you, but it does take more than just a click sometimes. It does sometimes take an actual support ticket or a phone call.
Our friend Trisha in the chat has said that she's done this for several clients and flagged certain photos like that and was able to successfully get them removed. So just, reiterating what you said there, Joe. Hey guys, I really do apologize. I would love to go on and on. Believe me, there's so much fun stuff we could talk about. Joe, we may have to have you back because I think this is resonating. But want to say thank you very, very much for your time here today. Again, guys, it's advancedonlineinsights.com. Go check it out. You can connect with Joe there. Tons of questions. I mean, people asking if you're hiring, asking if they can hire you. So go out, talk with Joe out there. But thank you very much. And as always, Ben, Jason, thank you so much for your help today. We really appreciate it, gentlemen.
All right. Thanks everybody for showing up.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Joe.
Take care.
Bye-bye.